Oh, thank you. Yeah, it's here. It's here. My first book in the series of fantasy books for kids, The Power of Three. And I am so excited about this. I just wanted to give you a little sneak peek in the author's voice. Me! Yes, I am so excited to share this with you. I want to share with you this first chapter. So snuggle up, get ready. I want to introduce you to the first in a 6-part series of fantasy books for kids, The Power of Three. Buried Treasure, Chapter 1. Sterling looked out over the ground, still muddy in patches, with puddles from the storm the night before. Water seeping back into the ground, exposed rocks and roots from the downpour. He squinted his eyes to protect them from the sunlight reflecting on a piece of metal, but as bright as it was, the light called to him. Crossing the field, he saw a dark metal box partially sticking up from the ground. Its polished brass corner reflected the sun's rays as they broke through the drifting clouds. His mouth dropped open. What is it? His mind raced with possibilities. Kneeling down, Sterling clawed the dirt around the chest to expose it and have a better look. He struggled to move the chest against the mud's grip. It feels like it's full of something, thought Sterling. With all his strength, he broke it loose from its muddy bed. Brushing the dirt from the chest, he looked at the rusted front lock. The keyhole was filled with mud, so he glanced around for something to clean it out. Finding a thin stick, Sterling poked it into the keyhole, digging out loose dirt. Even with the lock cleared, he would need a key to open it, or maybe not. Picking up a stone the size of his fist, he struck the lock. Nothing. Again, he slammed the rock against the lock. Some rust flaked off, but it remained firmly closed. Come on, Sterling yelled, striking the lock for the third time. This time, he heard a loud click as it yielded to his command. The lock now hung open. Sterling dropped the rock, slipped off the lock, and gripped the lid. Slowly pulling against the rusted hinges, the lid gave way. He gasped at the contents inside. Oh, treasure! Beyond anything he imagined. Where did it come from? Who buried it here? He thought. His heart was racing, remembering stories of robbers, especially the not very nice ones. Sterling's mind filled with questions as he stared into the chest filled with gold coins. Who hid the gold coins? Would they come back? It was too heavy for him to carry home by himself. His stomach tightened. Maybe for now it would be better to bury it again? Sterling spotted an old can nearby to dig with, and he carved the hole deeper in the soft soil to hide the chest. With shaking hands, he dragged it back into the ground, camouflaging it with mounds of dirt. He looked around for rocks, leaves, branches to disguise the spot. Instead of using his hands, Sterling stood and walked, walking faster and faster, his thoughts swirling like leaves at his feet. Caught in the fantasy of his imagination, he was hardly aware of the movement of the ground cover around him. Sterling painted in his mind armed soldiers hiding the wealth of kings, and his steps changed to a march tempo, his shoes slapping the earth with puffs of dust. But it was as if the pirates, he mused, could be maybe even hiding in the field now. Oh, maybe they're angry that I've touched their pillage. His skin prickled at the thought of pirate eyes on the back of his neck, plotting to carry him off because he dared to touch their hidden booty. Arr! or dragons? He stumbled at the thought. They like gold. Sterling's chest tightened, thinking about fiery dragons destroying homes and swooping from the sky as families ran and screaming. Whistle, Sterling thought, hoping it would slow his racing thoughts. Whistling sometimes helps me. But this time, it didn't help. It all seemed too much, too scary. Sterling didn't realize he was not alone. As he circled the field around his buried treasure, there were eyes fixed on him, but they did not belong to pirates. This pair of eyes watched from high overhead. Large yellow eyes, sunken into a huge, partially translucent head belonging to a dragon, silently gliding above the clouds on the wind currents. The dragon observed the boy open a chest filled with glistening gold coins. He took notice when it disappeared into the ground. Little streaks of smoke puffed from the dragon's nostrils as it sniffed the sweet perfume of the boy's fear. He watched Sterling circling over the spot where he buried the chest. The dragon tilted his head, puzzled as the boy walked and whistled. Rocks, brush, and leaves responded to the frequency of his whistle, moving over the disturbed earth and blending with the rest of the field. The dragon descended from silently circling in his high-altitude sanctuary. The scales on his body reflected the sunlight in rainbow colors, becoming more visible. At the flapping sound, Sterling looked up into its yellow eyes and screamed. He ran towards a tree, and the dragon's wings stirred up dust all around him. He dropped behind the massive trunk of the tree as the dragon flew past. He sighed as the dust cloud camouflaged him in his hiding place. Sterling waited. Breathe quietly, he thought to himself. Losing the scent, the dragon hovered in place over the field. He also waited. The dragon snorted in frustration, and sparks of flame shot out. When Sterling realized the dragon wasn't going away, his heart pounded harder in his chest. It sounded so loud in his ears that he was sure that the dragon could hear it. I need to get home, he thought, but panicked at the idea of leaving his safety of the tree. It would be easy prey for the dragon if he did. He wiped the sweat from his eyes and took a deep breath, waiting until the dragon was looking in the opposite direction. Sterling took off running hard across the field toward his house. The dragon breathed in deeply, stretching out his massive wings. It rose in the air, following the boy's scent.